Thank you. We are going to have a double session tonight. I think the internet is a bit unstable on my side, but I will do my level best to cover all the content. Last night we ended with political leadership part 2, and we looked at what is a good political leader. And the 4 issues that we were looking at yesterday were, number 1, we looked at what is a good political leader, the importance of good leadership, why leadership fail. And tonight we will continue. I don't know how much we have covered yesterday, but we looked at leadership defined again. Who is a good political leader? Why do leaders fail? And great leadership in society. So I will start by again defining for you like we did yesterday. We said leadership is the ability of an individual to lead, inspire, and guide, to transform other individuals, groups, or organizations in society for a good cause. Underlying that, leadership is always for a good cause. And we said the characteristics of such leadership, and that is what we want to see in African leadership, but also in political leadership, is understanding people's needs, striving for impact. So you must have insight in what people need. What are the people's needs? Striving for impact, sound institutions and systems. And we also mentioned that the reason why you find in the Western world leadership is better, especially political leadership and national leadership is better, because you find you can put any type of person in those systems. They've got good systems. Some presidents today are former comedians, are former movie stars, but they are within a good system, and that is why they are able to lead. So your system could be a catalyst to the quality of your leadership. And then we also said wisdom. We need wisdom in good leadership, political leadership. We need integrity maintained. And what we mean by that is not just giving or putting up a good face when you enter office, but maintaining whatever comes, because the actual work is not while you are campaigning or preparing for an office, but when you enter an office, when challenges come, when you face realities, that is when we can see whether this is a person of integrity or not. Integrity is ever tested in leadership. So your nature should be that of integrity, accountability, and also power exercised, but also power shared. So good leadership, we said, you don't just exercise your power, but you share power because you are already in authority. And then succession is one of the greatest characteristics that we need to see in African leadership. And what we said is succession does not only start with presidents, it does not end with presidents. Any individual in any position where you are, you need to be able to work in such a way that you prepare yourself and those around you for the next level, or you prepare them for takeover. So these are some of the key characteristics that we want to see in leadership. And we also said anyone can become a leader. So never look at an individual at the level where they are at and what you teach them or what you learn from them. But every potential individual you look at is a leader. So leadership potential is within everyone. It needs to be worked and it needs to be untapped. So who is a good political leader? There was a question as to what would one look at if you vote for a leader? And what I said yesterday is the best way to identify a good leader is to put yourself within the position of a leader and see what would you do if you are in that position. And through that, you also learn how to prepare for leadership. There's a certain sociologist, Mark Schools, who said, we shall never change our political leaders until we change the people who elect them. Hence, it's important as citizens to elect the right leader who can create transformation. This is a mindset issue. It's an issue of mindset. We need to change the minds of those who vote for others or the electorate, like we said earlier. A good political leader is a public servant, works for the betterment of society, and underlined anyone who always look at the betterment of a society. He or she is selected by members of society by casting votes, And we said a political leader requires statesmanship as opposed to just being a politician. This means there need to be integrity, willingness to stand up for what is right, and even if it means resigning for a position in government or losing an election. Now, losing an election does not mean you are not a leader. It does not make you a bad leader as well. Citizens should elect leaders considering their ability and capability to make a difference and add value to society. Now, it's very difficult to assess an individual's ability and capability if that person has never led you. It's very difficult. And that is where we make some of the mistakes of the questions we asked the day before yesterday. Many times we look at the voice of the individual. It is also then the leader's responsibility to make the difference that the citizens are looking for. Now, it's a huge responsibility to take up an office because you are answerable. You are answerable. And in most cases, today's politicians are not doing what they ought to do for individuals. They don't meet the needs of people. The minds change, the needs change. The issues change when they end up in office. We have classical examples in our nation of young people or people that take up office. Everyone vote for them, and when they get into office, the situation is different. And that is why I decided we should look at why leadership failed. A good political leader should not be worried about his or her position or reputation. Reputation, I mean, not just putting up, not just wanting to be the person to be powered and to exercise power and authority. That should not be your first priority. You should always work for the growth of society and to increase the value or the quality of life for citizens. Every political leader should inherit the skills and research capabilities to think and act towards future growth. If you are sitting there and you are saying you are a leader, your mind should be futuristic. Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years' time? Where do you see the people that you lead in 5 or 10 years' time? Where do you see your nation of Liberia or whatever country you are from in 5 or 10 years' time, in 20 years' time? Any leader, and it is a political leader's responsibility to be futuristic. You must have the research capabilities. You must be curious about where you are going, what the people think at all times, not only why they are voting for you. And we also say capabilities to think. You need to be a thinker. In other words, the element of thought leadership should be an integral part of a leader, of a political leader. You need to also be a thought leader. And tonight in the next session, I'm going to take you deeper into the issues of thought leadership and why and how younger people can become thought leaders and thrive in the area of thought leadership. A successful leader should have 5 major virtues, that is discipline, trustworthiness, courage, humaneness, and intelligence. You must have these qualities. People want to know that they can trust you. You must have the courage to lead irrespective of the weather, irrespective of circumstances. Leadership is not only when people love you, when things are going well, when things are all good, and when the individual in office has been displaced by yourself. No. Leadership is your ability to face crisis, your ability to act within crisis, your ability to delegate and to still put and leave people at ease in times of crisis. Amidst all leadership roles, political leaders are always on everybody's mind. We think more of political leaders than any other type of leader. Why? They are always on the forefront. We see what they are doing. Now, one of the sacrifices you need to make is the more you strive for leadership, the more you climb the ladder, the more you rise in life, the more you are promoted in life, the more prominent you become. And I always tell people, the higher you go, the colder it becomes. And that is why you need to be a leader of integrity, because the higher you go, the easier it is for people's eyes to be upon you. You might not yet be in that position today, and you are still sitting in the seat of everyone with your back to somebody else, they see your back. But once you are leading, you stand in front of people.
Excuse me, Madam Mulamata, your microphone is off. Kindly check it out, please.
Can you hear me now?
Sure, sure.
Am I audible?
Yeah, sure, you are okay now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I don't know what went wrong. Or maybe I was just far from the mic. Let me just bring it closer. My last statement was that around the world,
I don't know why. It's still doing the same thing. Madam Mulamata is trying to sort out some issues, and she will be here very, very soon. Please be patient, please.
Hello, hello. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, you are live now. Can you go ahead? You are live.
Thank you. My apologies for that. Let's continue. You could just give me an indication if I am fading away again. I was just working on the sound. And thank you for your patience, everyone on the group. We continue. We spoke of good leadership. What is a good leader? Are you able to see the screen? Is the screen on?
Yeah, sure.
All right. And yesterday we have looked at a picture of these individuals that were former African presidents, and we said amongst them, there were some leaders that failed, and amongst them, there were leaders that some of them recently stepped out of leadership, but we also need to look at the good things that they have done because there are foundations that they have laid that we need to build on. When you succeed someone, you do not only displace everything, but what you do is you look at the strengths and then you look at the weaknesses and then you look at your own strengths and see how you can build onto that to be a better leader. Now we also said, or also looked at why leadership fail. And yesterday we said that we spoke of governance guided by ideology. And what that means is many people go into office based upon ideologies. They start their leadership based upon ideologies. My ideology is if we can have water for everyone and whatever for everyone, and this is how it will go, and then we will have a better nation. Now, when you get into office, like I said earlier, being elected for an office, taking up an office is not the same as being within an office. I can be excited about a leader because I look at the leader as a potential leader. But once you get into office, I need water, I need housing, I need food, we need food security, we need protection for our nation, we need our borders to be protected, we need better health care, we need better agriculture, and we want it immediately. And that is how voters look at individuals that they are electing into office. But while this person gets into office, there's a certain process that you need to go through in order for you to succeed with what you are doing. Now, while you take time within that process, individuals become irritable, they become agitated, and the need continues. Now, there are two elements here. You are dealing with a human being that you have voted into office, and you are dealing with the need of the people. While we have a need and while the individual steps into office does not mean that that person has no intention to lead. It is just that the patience of the people. Now, if you go in with the ideology that I can change the world for everyone, and you do not look at the reality, you might fail as a leader. Human beings do not understand the side of a leader that need to understand that people are waiting. So these are one of the reasons why individuals fail. I always tell people, do not vote for an opinion leader. Vote for an individual with the knowledge and the skill that these are our needs. And these needs need to be met because a true leader will then go up, get up into office. In one of our mentorship programs, we teach individuals about the first 90 days. What do you do? When I interview individuals for a job, especially senior management level, we look at what are you going to do for the first 90 days in office? And you must be able to tell us what are your first 90 days in office going to be, because we need to know how you connect to the people first. There is a psychological contract that you cannot negotiate in any election. You cannot negotiate it in any interview. That is this process that steps in once you step up into office. And the second thing is How are you going to connect to the process, and how do you plan to fit into the system? So we need to understand what are your first 90 days in office. In Namibia, I don't know in other countries, they interview presidents after the first 100 days. They interview first ladies, that is president's wives, after the first 100 days in office. Another thing they also do is they look at your financial status. You need to declare wealth. We call it wealth declaration status. You must declare all your wealth as the president. You must declare all your wealth as the first lady. So as to if you are a billionaire after 2 years and nothing has changed in the nation, we need to understand how that wealth was gained or how that wealth was obtained. So one of the reasons why leadership failed is the governance is guided by ideology. The second reason why governance could fail is the process that is followed, the promotion or the principles towards the promotion, towards the process that the individual is taken up into office. People know Simonee Mulamata as somebody that is mentoring, coaching, speaking, developing individuals to take up leadership. And so they seek after me, they talk to me, and they put me in an office. Now, they haven't evaluated me. They've got no experience of my strengths and my weaknesses. They never know where I've really, really failed. They've only heard the good things about me. Well, there are many other capable people who have the knowledge and the experience that can solve a particular need within a certain period of time, and they've never looked at these individuals. And then also all the other issues and processes that they use to get people into office, like nepotism, tribalism, bribery and fraud, and all the other things. So these are some of the reasons why leadership then fail, because the individual that is put in the office does not match or cannot live up to the needs of the people or to the position. And then also failure to discover the causes of mismanagement, or the causes of corruption, or just the causes of even the misplacement. So failure to look at that. What do I mean by failure? We see perpetual patterns of individuals going into office, and the pattern is the same. In the beginning, all is well. We are relieved. The individual that caused trouble is out of the way. We've got a new person. And after a few months or a few years, we are unhappy because nothing is coming from this individual. So we never study the cause and the effect. We just continue to replace and displace. And it is an evil cycle. It is a pattern. And society remains the same. Problems become worse, and we do not meet the needs of the people. And these are some of the reasons why leadership fail. And that I want to ascribe to leadership in Africa. So we've been discussing this. And you have to change. Are we still together? Hello?
Yes, we are. We are together.
Thank you.
Yes, we are
Yes, I'm
listening.
here.
We are getting you.
Thank you. I almost thought my sound is off again because I was quickly changing something here. What do we need in a good leader? A good leader must be able to make tough decisions and brave decisions. Decisions that improve quality of life for the public or the people that they need, that they lead. That is one of the first things. So you've got to be able to make tough decisions. If you are indecisive, you have a challenge with leadership. And then also a good leader needs to be able to work for the people and also look at the interests and the need of the people rather than to fight to be a better politician. Because remember, when you get into office, there will be a lot of competition between yourself, you being put into office, and the things that you are dealing with, and the things that you need to be focused on your purpose being in office. And then also you should be able to listen to the people and represent them faithfully. I'm going to go a bit faster because we wasted a lot of time with all the change of batteries and things here on my side. And if I take so much time, my screen has got a tendency to freeze here. Okay. Leadership is instrumental for social change, and overcoming social problems or modernizing or abolishing social problems can be impossible without the right kind of leadership. And leadership work for the goodness of society, the people's voice, and it creates a positive and happy society. And then also, it's important for us that in great leadership, we need to understand that the leader has a is capable of visualizing the people's needs. We spoke of the needs. I don't want to repeat that. And then also not just realizing the people's needs, but from different angles. A leader should be able to put himself in the shoes of an individual. Now remember, popular demand ends when you enter an office. Popular demand ends when you enter an office. And when you are leading everyone from every single individual sector you are leading. So these are the important things around leadership. The rest I will give to you to read through because I would like us to move over to the next presentation. The only thing I wanted to, my aim here was for us to really understand the foundation you need to have if you really want to be that leader that you've been learning about for the past few weeks. I'm going to give you time for 1 or 2 questions before we move over to the next presentation. And I have 1 or 2. Is there any questions or comments before we move on?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I have a question on the question why leaders fail, and you have governance ideology. Is it the government ideology or an individual own ideology that makes them to fail?
Thank you. Every individual goes into an office with a certain ideology. And at the same time, the governance ideology, which governs a nation, could also make leadership to fail. In most cases, you'll find that when it comes to an individual's ideology, individuals walk with that mindset that I can change the world for people. And others come in that I am the elected, I am the nominated, and I will change the world for them. Now, the issue around ideology is when you step into office, whatever brought you into office ends just there. You now need to look at the need on the ground. I want to give you an example of, we had a very aspiring leader in one of our parties, led by youth-led parties, political parties in Namibia, and everyone just wanted him to be president and to lead. He happened to become the mayor of Windhoek in the year 2021. We were very excited, and his aim was to give his land to as many people as possible. And the moment he came into office, in his first month, there was a huge strike within the city of Windhoek because people wanted land. He had good aspirations. He had good philosophies, and everything was in place for us voting for this individual. But here, individuals came and they mobbed. They came in a mob to the city of Windhoek. They want the land. Now, if you look at the mindset of the individuals, these were people that wanted land for many years already, and he was the person that promised them land. But because of the process within, or the process in between, none of these two groups were wrong. The one group wanted an answer from what they wanted, but this individual was working on it. But what he was working on was going to take a year or 2 or 3 years. And because he could not meet their need within a month or 2, we had an issue of land grabbing in our city. They took over land, they started working the land, and they started putting up the shacks. Now, the ideology he had and the way he presented himself to the people gave them the impression that he will meet their need immediately. So that is what we mean by ideology. That particular issue failed because he never thought of process. The people never thought of process because they were tired of waiting. He was excited to get into office. And a year later, they had to remove him because we had so much upheaval because of the land grabbing issue. So that is when ideology meets reality. So within your leadership, whatever you prepare for, you need to make people understand process. You need to plow process into the mindsets of individuals. I made that mistake many times in my career. When I entered a job, when I enter a workplace, I see what are the needs that I feel need to change. And I told myself within 3 months, I will change this environment. And after 3 months, I become the most frustrated person because what I thought I would change in 3 months is a process. That is when ideology meets reality. And I think that is the same mistake we make as electorate when we elect people for office. So I don't know if I answer your question, but it could be the ideology of the government if it comes to governance, but also the ideology of individuals. There is a question here. Is it only Africa that has got a leadership crisis? Let me just try to remove. I put something here on the screen that does not want to be in space. Is it only Africa that has a leadership crisis in the entire world, or is she being used as a case study for the purpose of this study? I'm using Africa because I am trying to bring us to the mindset of what Africa looks like, African leadership, and the mistakes we make when we are bringing people into office or into power. Are we together? This Joyce, there's a question. Joyce, I see a hand from Joyce.
You can hear me now?
Yes, very clearly.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation. Asking as to how we can know a good leader. My question is it right to choose a political leader based on interest or based on a relationship with the person?
Can you repeat your question?
You hearing me now?
I can hear you. I would like you to repeat your question.
I'm saying, is it right to choose a political leader based on your personal relationship with the person, or maybe based on your personal interest? Is it right to make such a decision in choosing your political leader?
Thank you. You can never choose a person based upon your personal relationship unless you know the leadership side of the individual, but when it gets personal, that is what we call nepotism. I choose a person because I know the person. Unless that is the only person running for office and the person has the qualities and everything, and you know the person, yes, but if it is you choosing based upon your personal relationship, it might not be a very good idea to do that. I do not believe in that. I'd never choose a person because I know I have no relationship with a person.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Can we move on to the next presentation? Joyce, I see your hand is still up. Are you still asking me a question?
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. I think that's the previous hand up.
Thank you so much. All right, at this junction, I would like us to quickly move to the next presentation and go into the next session. Thank you very much. I will just quickly switch over and then I will share the screen again.
Okay. Yeah. They do that.
Hello? Are you able to see the screen? Hello?
Yes, we are seeing this soon.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to move straight into the next session, and this is
Yeah,
our
the
third
screen is
session.
visible.
And today we are going to look at the different angle of the political leadership, and we are going to focus on the youth. Thank you. Our introduction are only three things that we are going to look at in a nutshell. The importance of this session is for you to prepare for our next session on project management. This is a foundation, but I'm putting you as the leader in the position of the African leader. Now, first of all, we are going to look at Africa's greatest asset, and that is the young people. And then we are going to look at the aid versus trade and the elements of what the African Union has implemented to support young people in Africa. So, in summary, the introduction, I want us to understand first that the sixth region of the African continent is what's Pura, and these are all people of African descent living outside Africa. The five regions that we are talking about consist of Northern Africa, Central Africa, Middle Africa, Southern Africa, East Africa, and West Africa. And when we look at the era within we are at, we're looking at the diaspora connecting back to Africa. And the population of Africa in itself, the basic information, and this is around 2020, together with Africans or individuals from descent living outside Africa, the basic estimation is 500 million. To understand or to keep that in mind as we through this session. Now, when we speak of remittances, remittances speak of the diaspora finance, which involves or is understood as interpersonal financial transfers between migrants and countries of origin, or between the countries of origin, the investments of the diaspora asset producing diaspora organization. What I'm saying is it's English and I am Namibian of origin. The kind of capital or the into Namibia from my side as the sentences that we are looking at. And then the remittances that we are referring to is one in African countries projected to receive the highest remittance inflow in 2021. Nigeria 17.6 billion, and then you have Ghana 4.5, Kenya 3.7, Senegal 2.6, Zimbabwe 1.4, and so on. Why am I showing you this? This is the kind of money that in essence are coming into our countries without government budgets. This is separate from government budgets. That is why you find that sometimes we have problems like COVID-19, we have recession, but people are so able to buy houses, able to buy cars, people are so able to do business, import and exports amidst these kind of challenges that we are facing. Now, Africa remittances overall in 2021, approximately 78.4 billion, constituting 11.7% of global remittances. Now, 11.7% of global remittances came through or flowed into Africa, and therefore demonstrated greater resilience and reliability as a source of capital in a foreign direct investment flow. Now, as compared to foreign investment flow, other foreign direct investment, the 11.7% came from diaspora into Africa. That is my cousin, my family member living outside Africa, generating or projecting capital into Africa, either through sending money home to family members or through doing business with Africans and so on. I just need us to understand this as background. What am I saying? We are not totally dependent on foreign investment. Even our own people outside are also part of investments that come into Africa. In Continent Free 2018, of course, negotiations started much earlier with the African Union. It was officiated on the 1st of 2021. And that is just opening up between Africa and the DRC. Trade has been made, but the name of the free agreement is created by the FN among the 54 of the 55 nations. And now I believe it's 55. At the time in 2021, January, it was 54 nations. And that is in the best interest and the American people. It is opening up trade for us in a very different way. Now, I'm busy with bringing back the mindset as to what political reasoning would be like in future. And I want you as leaders, as aspiring business people, as individuals that would run NGOs or individuals that would run enterprises or whatever you want to establish, you must connect your mind to the Africa Free Trade Agreement. I'm trying to talk about the impact of the fourth industrial revolution for Africa. Now, when we talk a revolution in this day and age, it cannot be old people. Now, Africa's greatest asset is the youth. We are no longer talking about mineral resources, our greatest asset. We've been having mineral resources, and did we ever benefit of it? But our greatest resource at this day and age in 2022 is the youth. Now, out of the 1.4 billion, 70% of the young people or 70% of the African population are under the age of 35. I said 2 days ago, 60% of the 70% are under 25 years. Now, this is a particular segment. The youth is a segment that the government has serious problems in terms of program planning. Programs are planned for young people, but young people are not involved. Young people are brought to the table, and we are excited about having youth in the table. What I always look at, if I see whether it is the African Union or whatever organ of the African Union, always look at the involvement of young people. Yes, they are there. Yes, they are brought to the table, but are their voices taken in the way it is supposed to be taken? Is it integrated in the way it is supposed to be integrated? Do we as young people go back to look at whether what is implemented, whether our voices are carrying any weight there? And this is for us the same. The major mission field for generational transition is the young or are the young people. And this can only take place through effective mentoring. Take care of mentorship programs. Take care of when you see opportunity to be mentored in whatever field, because it will only work well through mentorship. And the mentorship should involve thought leadership, within your particular area of trade. And I always say your area of trade, your area of gifting, your area of skill and knowledge, which could or even include preparation for political office or political leadership. Now, young people are the most neglected and least involved and thought and in development. And amongst those going to those that are used by adults in crime, those that are find rape statistics, thief statistics, top corruption list, young people are all involved there. And this is how Africa let me say, of Africa that they have for the young people. Africa's greatest assets are the greatest targets in the destruction of nations. What I've noted in the history of nations, and even today, if individuals want to overthrow a government, they will use the young people. If they want to rig elections, they will use young people to be on the forefront and, you know, be in the systems and everything. Politicians use young people. If you look at child, so for the International Labour Organization, this is the UN organ that works with child labor. It's young people that are being used as soldiers, as rebels, and they are not trained, they are not educated, they're just given a gun, and they are just given to kill even their own family members. It's young people that are on the forefront of cheap labor, they're on the forefront of trafficking, human trafficking, they are on the forefront of anything that you can see, and it's not themselves that are running there, they are being used through systems. They are the greatest victims of corruption. What I've seen in nations is when you find a young person, when I say young people, let me say 40 and under, or let me say 45 under, whichever you want to categorize it. They are the greatest victims of corruption. Politicians use them. Corrupt people use them. And they look at, they capitalize on their vulnerability, their inability to study, unemployment and poverty, and they use them. So they become the most angriest group in society. And that is where we get rebel movements from. A few days ago, I was saying that I never anticipated that we will still have by coup d'etat in Africa in this day and age. I never anticipated that we would still have water problems in Africa, electricity problems in Africa, road infrastructure problems in Africa, and let alone food insecurity. Africa is a basket of resources for the world, a basket of resources for the world. Africa in itself is able to have food security at national level in every nation. But you'll find that at household level, they are not able to. So what are we saying? What are the interventions from the African Union? In 2021, they came up with a campaign, or let me say in 2020 for 21, 1 million by 2021. That means we generate opportunities. These are jobs. These are study opportunities, opportunities to engage young people. 2021, of course, it did not yet materialize because of COVID-19. This is what is on the table. And what they did was they mobilized over 400 young people from different organizations and entities. Now, the African Union structure is not just African Union in Africa. They have the young people representative in different continents. And the young people representatives could be educated individuals, policymakers, but they are all young people. We're talking under 40, 45 under. And they are working in these nations, and they mobilize young people and they engage them in decision making in Addis Ababa. Now young people are being involved in decision making. So they engage them in Addis Ababa, and they're holding them accountable as young people in leadership, and they were responsible for stakeholder engagement. Now this, how it works is it trickles down to many platforms, and that is why platforms like ours are doing Africans in Leadership Perspectives. I am working with young people, and we make sure that our opinions reach government directly and indirectly. And when they go to platforms like this, or when young people represent us, we know that our voice is in there. And then they worked on policies to launch the project. So policies were used to launch this project. And out of these policies, there were 12 components, but 4 pathways were used. The key 4 pathways were used to achieve goals. And these pathways comes through education, entrepreneurship, employment, and engagement. These are the 4 pathways. Now, before we get into the pathways, I want to explain to you what happens there. What were the objectives of the 1 million by 2021? Remember, this initiative was pushed by younger people that are working within the AU, within international structures, with the UN, with whatever structures, whatever organs. And like I said, it trickled down to other organizations as well. And how did it, was it cascaded down? The organization that I worked for some years back, we wanted to transform the organization, but we discovered that within this organization, there were young people that were in the organization and that benefited and so on. And the older generation has gone through everything. So for us to come up with a new strategy, we had to use young people. This organization was in 136 countries across the world. So we need to mobilize 100 people, 100 young people from all the different countries. And they were tasked to develop a strategy, a 2020-30 strategy for the future of this organization. Remember, it's a very huge organization. The organization, and they came up with a strategy, and they spearheaded the component on young people, but they also had a voice in all the other different strategies. And that is how we make their voice heard. And today it is implemented as part or as a component of this particular strategy. Now, the objective was to demonstrate to leaders that Africans can solve their own problems. It's only young people that will be able to demonstrate it through practical implementation. It's the purpose is also to demonstrate that we Africans can be intentional, and that Africa doesn't need aid anymore, but we need trade. So it's the aid versus trade agreements. And also to put pressure on the Africa Free Trade Agreement. Now listen to me well, free trade agreement is not only for young people, it's for every business individual. And we also want to empower women, we also want to empower girls through that, but also everyone that is socially disadvantaged in Africa. And the rationale is still restoration of Africa. No matter how much we produce as a nation in Africa at this point in time, Africa is, or the African economy is only contributing something like 1% maximum to the world economy. And decisions around wealth of Africa are not made by Africans. And that is why we are saying minerals is no longer the issue. It's the young person that need to get behind these issues and push things and drive things. So our wealth, we don't decide about our wealth because we do not own them. And again, even the markets are not determined by Africa. Our oil and our minerals that goes out, we don't determine the market. It is determined by the West. The tax, the values and the royalties goes back to the West. Remember the West has started, or they came, they prospected, they came up with the mines and everything, but the Africans are doing the work. I said a few days ago, the Western world was built on the backs of the Africans, and that is what I mean. They come, they take everything, taxes and everything goes back to them. And that is the current situation. And through this Africa Free Trade Agreement and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, we believe that we can take Africa back to where it belongs. And then also, at this point in time, Africa cannot even contribute to the UN Education Platform, the United Nations Education Platform, because it does not have its own curriculum. Decisions were made by the colonizers. Now, what am I saying? If your country was colonized by France, your curriculum, your education curriculum is influenced by France or by the French people. And what we are saying is Africa needs its own education with an N curriculum. We need our own education curriculum. And as I'm speaking here, you need to see yourself in all these different areas. I could be either here, I could either be there, but we need to see where we fit in. Now, in the trade agreements, as a modern day politician, these are the knowledge and the skills that we need to have before we want to take up any office. Otherwise, we will sit there with opinions and information on systems, but inability of what other needs. The four is, or let's start first with the trade. The word trade that we are speaking of speaks of technology, speaks of retail, it speaks of agronomy, it speaks of development or the social sector. And then the E's, the 4 E's that I said earlier, it's integrated elsewhere. That is education, entrepreneurship, employment, engagement, and then skills. This is what the word trade is standing for when we speak of the 4th industrial revolution. Number 1 in trade is technology. Africa should have its own technology. Africa is great at developing its technology. Africa has huge potential for technology. And I believe the absolute brain of technology, the untapped brain of technology is still sitting in Africa. Don't look at China. Don't look at the United. Don't look at Japan. The brain of technology is in Africa. Many Africans develop technology, but they do not lead in technology. What am I saying? Billions of US dollars are coming out of technology that are developed by young Africans. We're just given small change in return. I have a classic example of one of the young people who were part of developing one of the wings of the Boeing 747 and the technology that went into that. And what they did was they just approached the individual when they discovered that this is what this technological brain can do. And they gave him something like 8 million US dollars. And they took the concept. And today they are making billions on a daily basis. And this individual only got 8 million US dollars. Now, for an African who never saw money, will think 8 million US dollars is wise. But they actually stole this individual's vision and they went with it, giving him small change. So there's quite a number of examples that I can give you of what is happening now at a very, very fast scale. We have a young individual in Namibia that was part of a group where they developed just an app which they call taxi app. We don't have Uber in Namibia. They developed taxi app and they are a group of young university students and they developed it 2 years ago during COVID-19 in 2020. And they actually discovered that the concept is millions worth and they started a company and they are making millions. The beginning of this year, we heard that there's an American or US company that wants to come and see them because they want to pay them 10 billion for their concept. It has not yet happened, but I just want to give you an example of how our brains are being bought and taken back to other nations. And we are sitting back with money. But remember, the solution to poverty is not money. It is to stay with you. You can develop and evolve thoughts and ideas, but money can finish. Money can finish. Recession tells us that money can finish. So as young and upcoming leaders, I need you to understand this concept of where we are at and what we need to do to get to that next level. Government should pay attention to innovation from young people. Namibia last year developed a new innovation policy. They introduced it in the midst of COVID-19. They introduced it. And in the beginning of 2020, we had a change of government, elections in 19 and then 20. And we had young people. Our Deputy Minister of Information Technology is a young lady of 24 years old. And the reason I believe why they put her in there is because we need younger brains in innovation when it comes to technology. So we have a new policy. And then individuals that lay claim on copyright to African innovation should be charged. Do not just allow people to lay copyright on things that you yourself have invented. Now we need intelligence around this area. But I just wanted to tell you what the T is standing for and how technology is, to me, the potential of the future Africa. And we need to tap into that. Technology is busy taking over all over. Technology is busy replacing jobs and new brains can be invested into it. But I believe that the next generation will thrive on technology. So it involves everything, ICT and everything around that. The R stands for retail. Now we've got great retail in Africa. It is the hub, one of the hubs of African development. We have got a huge African economy when it comes to retail. It has shown that in the year, I think 2019, it was something like 500 million US dollar in retail. So Africans themselves, or 500 billion US dollar in retail that Africa has produced. And that is the informal economy alone. Now, us as Africans lack the understanding of the value of retail in Africa. What am I saying? As young people, we need to tap into this. Every time I will repeat unto you, be curious about new things. Be curious about where you can venture into in commodities. We need to appreciate the value of supply chain in Africa, because this is what will enrich us and take us to a next level when we activate the free trade opportunities, because there is not only Africa to diaspora, but it's inter-Africa as well. You'll be able to do business with Namibia, with Angola, with Botswana, all these countries that we are not currently, or that we never yet tapped into. Invade international markets with African branding. We need African branding. We need African branding, and people, not just only in music. We've got great designers and design technology in Africa, untapped technology. When it comes to housing, the different types of housing, we've got so many great designs. Now, I've been to Europe many times, and I see that they've got very simple designs, very organized, structured, but very simple. We've got absolute things in Africa. Anything you pick from your soil, from a tree, from an animal, can be a brand in Africa. And then we must begin to participate in free trade opportunities. Opportunities are there. We need to untap these opportunities. Be curious. We will talk a little bit about it when we do project management. But I just need to tell you that the R stands for retail. Then we've got agronomy, agriculture economy. And that is the future oil industry. I know there's been a lot of wars around oil. There's been a lot of talk and discussion around oil, but the agronomy is the future oil industry. And there's a need for prospecting by young Africans. There's a need for prospecting by existing business individuals in Africa, because where does the new oil industry come from? You know, some of the corn we use, some of the leaves we use that we throw away, these are produced for fuel for vehicles. Other countries have discovered it in Africa, and they've started making it in their own countries as well. But for us, we throw it away. The leaves that come from whatever corns, and we throw it away. Other countries are making things out of it. In my country, we have started looking at different bio technologies. And what we are doing is we start on a small scale by throwing out opportunities. We call it competitions or awards. If you are maybe a young medical doctor, or you are still a researcher, or you are a student, we throw out opportunities for trade. And we throw out opportunities for manufacturing. And you must use, in some of these, you must use natural products. So individuals go, and they go and get our famous Velvicia plants. They go and get our famous Marula plants, and they make skin lotions out of it. They make new perfumes out of it. And we are helping them to process it into international markets. We are helping them to get funding for their businesses. That is what is happening in the country. So as Africans, as young Africans, we are sitting on wealth. We are sitting on potential. And this is the mindset that future politicians and future leaders should have, and not just of what we are currently having, which is underdeveloped, and keeping it for ourselves. The D stands for development sector. I'm not giving you all the detail because it's too much. Each one of this is a field in its own anyway. But the D is the development sector. The development industry involves international organizations. It involves government departments and then also big international charities and social movements. We're all working to fight against causes of poverty and inequality, and then also focus on sustainable development. Sustainable development, what we do there is we are now working on sustainable strategies. The advice is when you think of any project, you must first think of a sustainability strategy. To think of anything you want to take on, the funding has changed. The angle of generation of funds has changed. The nature of request for funds has changed. And what we do or need funds for has changed tremendously based upon all these needs that I'm telling you about funds for NGOs. We are also looking at funds for companies. We are looking at social enterprise. And we need to understand that if you want to think politically, in a future Africa, so we want to make Africa great, combine this mindset. We're also looking at lessons learned in resource mobilization. So for us, it has been in the field for many years where we have had institutional partnership development with international partners. We are looking at what are the lessons learned from these partners. We are looking at, in the past, we used to say the donor is always right, but now there are stakeholders. There's no stakeholder, there's no donor without a stakeholder. That is what we need to understand. In the past, donors would come to us and say, we give you money to build this training center, and you must build it here and there, and it must be in this particular area. And today we can stand back and tell them that the need is, we need a clinic or a health center. And these are the reasons why we need the health center. And we need it on the same premises where you say we must build a training center. So why not link a training wing to the health center? And we need to be in a position where we tell them that this is the investment and this is the need. We need to convince them. And if you cannot meet our need, then it's better you keep your money for now. You know, we should not always just be on the receiving end. And that is why we are looking at all the elements of the trade sector. That in a nutshell, we come to the 4 E's. Now we said education, entrepreneurship, employment, and engagement. I said earlier that we do not have our own curriculum, and I am looking forward for an African to stand up and say, I'm establishing this unit and our focus will only be on developing an African curriculum. If you see all the new things that we are discovering in Africa that we are coming up with, then you will see that we have enough knowledge and information for a lot of new curriculums, new courses that never existed. We need to stop waiting on the West to come and see we have got this need in Africa, and there's so many people that tap into it and they take it, and for us, we enroll, we pay them. It's time we pay our own people. For mentorship and coaching, it's time we pay our own people. And it's time we look at what we are paying. You know, investing in yourself is the greatest investment you can do. And your self-investment or your development starts with you. I'm looking at what people charge for courses like this, for example, and I'm not here to campaign for anything, but I'm just thinking the way we regard our own people, our own potential, and whatever is amongst us, and the way we regard anything that comes from elsewhere outside Africa. So if we want to make Africa great and have great leadership, we are the ones that will promote and tell the world out there, this is what we have, and this is who we are. So based upon, it is not the end of the world. It is not, obsolete. We can start working step by step on our own curriculums. Based upon our own experience, Africa has got enough rich experience for great curriculums. I tell you one secret. I said a few days ago, Africa's a hub of resources for the world. Everyone is looking at Africa. I've got an example in Namibia where you find more Americans want to come and settle here. And I'm not talking of African Americans. You will find a time where people will flee from Europe to just come and settle in Africa. you will see how they will run for those curriculums of ours that we will develop. So there's so much potential. We should not talk about unemployment anymore if we want to tap into this. If we want to become a politician, look at the needs that are there, and you can create so much employment by just getting individuals to develop different curriculums and mobilize people to invest as Africans into Africa and into Africans. That last S for at the end of the trades is skills development. It needs to start in basic education. We need to change the face of basic education. I grew up in an era whereby we were told you need to go to grade school, then you go to high school, or in some countries it's called high school colleges. And then after that, you have to go to university, you have to get a degree. After degree, you have to get a job. And then you have to get a husband and a family. And then you have to get, there are other things that people add and they attach value to that. And that determines their self-worth. That is the type of Africa that we were wired to grow up in. But in today's world, as you are sitting there, you'll find that once a child is in school and you discover that this child has a skill, that skill needs to be nourished. We need to direct our basic education towards the skills that the individuals have. You can still give the basic education, but look at the computer skills. There's the ability to design. I cannot mention them. It cannot be exhausted in this period of time. And then vocational training centers. There need to be more vocational training centers, skills training centers, because that is what we need in Africa. And then also it should be linked to employability. Whatever you do at school should prepare you for the job market, not only for university. There should be more choices. And whatever levels you have at university could come into vocational training levels as well. And we need to prepare individuals for trainability as well. And then develop the future job market. So all these things need to be connected. If I finish school, I should be ready for taking up a job somewhere. I shouldn't wait 3, 4, 5 years to search for a job, because my education or the quality of curriculum that I had should prepare me for what is out there. So in other words, needs assessment, learning and development should be continuous. I don't know if there's any one of you that is in HR, but we talk of learning and development should be continuous. It should be connected to the job market, should be connected to the skills available, should be connected to the economic needs of any nation. And that is how we want to look at it in future. This is what the skills development component is looking at. So those are the few issues that I needed to share with you tonight. That is why I needed to prepare the mind for you. It sounded like an economic lesson, but it is not. This is what the future of Africa is looking at. That is the end of my presentation. I don't know if there's any comments, any questions, but I'm going to hand over now to anyone who wants to say something. Hello. Any questions?
Hello.
Are there any questions or comments?
Hello.
Morris, I saw your hand is raised. You may speak. Morris, I saw your hand is raised. You may speak. Thank you. Please, speaker. You may go ahead, Morris. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you for the comment. Somebody said, we just wish you continued. So it means you can still hear me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. What is the first entry point into the development sector of a country's economy? Can you clarify your question? There's a question by Christopher. Christopher, you may speak.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. You did extremely well in the presentation. If you kindly check into the comment section, my name is Christopher Toad, the second from Liberia. If you kindly check in the comment section, I was a bit confused when you did an overview of the development sector. And one of the questions that I posted in the chat was, I said, what was the first entry point into the development sector of a country's economy? You know, a couple of days ago, there were a lot of issues rising to that. We had a debate on the intellectual forum, and I just needed a little bit of clarity. So at least to provide some information to some people too that rely on clarity from me. That's what I was asking this question.
Thank you. It's a very broad question that you are asking. I really don't know what you want me to, what you want to hear from me, but how I landed in the development sector was through my job that I had in the government when I started. Normally, when we speak of the development sector, we want to speak of issues that address poverty, alleviation, issues that address health issues, food security, and whichever way you get in, you either work for an NGO, or you volunteer for an NGO, or you work for the government, or you volunteer, or you start up your own NGO or your own practice or whatever. And that is how you land up in the development sector. I don't know if I am answering your question.
Yeah, thank you. I received the clarity because I'm basically in the sector of the NGO, and we currently work with some faith-based organization, and there is a project we were implementing when it comes to the issue of youth capacity development programs, and we were exclusively targeting on disadvantaged youth, and we believe this social initiative will contribute a little bit of percentage to the development sector, because once you have the minds of the people developed, automatically their minds will result into positive actions that will bring about societal growth. That's why I asked the question, because I needed clarity. So thank you, ma'am, for the clarity. I understood that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions? They say when there are no questions, everything was either very clear or people understood nothing. I don't believe in that. I believe you are still trying to consume the information. So if there are no questions and opinions, can we call it an evening?
For me, it's not a question, it's just a